intelligence is key. It's very important. Limited resources in Israel. And, I feel like so much of what I learned in the Israeli military and intelligence has impacted the way I think today. It's such a gift what they had given me. I'm incredibly grateful, especially as an American. I was raised in Israel, but because I came with an American family, I felt very strongly American there. And coming back here to the United States with the gifts that Israel had given me during my military training, I felt compelled to at least employ them here in my country, in my nation, in the United States. About a week or so ago, violence erupted with of course, Hamas encouraging its citizens to fulfill their mission to try to annihilate Israel. They don't want Israel to exist whatsoever. I mean, they chant it all the time, from the ocean to the sea, Palestine will be free. And so they don't want any Israel whatsoever. They're not even attempting to hide it. And so they found a reason to ignite violence, and missiles have been launched into Israeli cities. And, Israel, not only does Israel, in my opinion, have the right to defend itself, Israel has the obligation to defend its citizens. And so when Israel defends its citizens, and thankfully Israel has this incredible technology, the Iron Dome, where they're able to actually stop the rockets from landing into the Israeli cities mid-air. It's such a blessing to have that kind of technology. But some of the rockets do fall in. And then on top of it, many of the Palestinians and the terrorists involved in this recent eruption are running into Israel, into the cities, and causing all kinds of additional violent attacks, whether it's stabbing or driving with their cars through Israeli neighborhoods and restaurants. And so it's very hard. I mean, I remember living there during multiple intifadas, which is what we call those violent periods of times where the Palestinians would go in. It's very hard. It's not a conventional war. It's a war against citizens. Luckily for Israel, it has some ability to defend its citizens through technology. But it's the classic example of the fact that people in social media and around the world who don't understand the conflict look at it as if, well, Israel's able to defend itself and it's made more progress and it appears stronger, and therefore if they appear stronger, they must be the ones who are actually the bad guys. The bad guys are not always the ones who are more successful and stronger. That is oftentimes not the case, but it's just the way we've taught our kids. Well, it's classic Marxism, right? And it's just because Israel is strong and able to defend itself doesn't mean that they're the aggressor. The problem for Palestinian citizens is truly their leadership uses its own people as cannon fodder. They truly use them as human shields. Right. And so while Israelis will do everything they can to protect its citizens, the Palestinians don't do the same thing. They actually use their citizens as part of, they want the casualties because it makes Israel look really bad. And that makes it very hard. Yeah, there's this hashtag that's very popular with millennials and Gen Zers, hashtag girl boss. I remember seeing that for the first time when somebody actually interviewed me and said, well, what is it like to be a female CEO and hashtag girl boss? And I actually got very irritated because I said, I'm just, my hashtag is simply, I guess, boss, because the balance sheet, the roll call of the folks that work for us, we have 70 employees. No, it doesn't matter what my genitalia is. All that matters is that I'm able to do the job that I've been hired to do. And so, I'll say, I think the feminist movement has gone so far that they've actually not only hurt women, but they've hurt our society, and they've hurt young women in particular. And to me, some of the crutches that our society is trying to develop, where they're saying, well, there should be a quota of a number of women on a certain board, or a quota of number of women in different positions, I think is very demeaning. I think that women are incredibly capable, and we don't need the crutches. And I think that once you start with a narrative that if you're hiring a woman, you should treat her differently by giving her additional crutches and additional support systems that you wouldn't be giving to other people. Well, what does that say to women about their capabilities? It says that they are in fact inferior. And I don't believe that women are inferior. I mean, here I am, as I mentioned, Dennis and Alan hired me 10 years ago to build this company. And I'm really proud of what I've done. And I'm able to be proud of it because I know they didn't hire me because I'm a woman. You know, maybe they hired me because of my Israeli military background. Maybe they hired me because of my passion. Maybe they hired me because, you know, I'm just tough as nails, whatever it is. But it's not because of my genitalia. And there's something to be said about knowing that I was hired because of my merit and my capabilities, and not because I was handed a crutch. And I want other women to feel that way too. And so if we tell women and we tell our society that women should be given crutches, that people of any sort of gender or color should be given certain crutches that others don't get, we're sending a very strong message that there are some who are more capable than others. And I won't accept that.
Good for you. I mean, I wish my wife Kim was here because she'd be cheering you on right now because you don't mess with Kim.
I'll let you in on a secret, which I think you're quite aware of, but women like real men. We don't like soy boys. And so, you know, the problem is that our society is confusing everybody. You're confusing. Dating right now is a bloody nightmare because the men don't know how to behave. The women don't know how to behave. You know, there is the nature that we are completely suppressing, the nature of how men and women are supposed to interact. And I think there's something so amazing about the fact that we're different, but we're trying to make them both exactly the same. And like, you know what? I'm married with 3 kids, but my husband paid for on the first and second date. And I love that about him. And he opened the door for me. And I love that about him. And there's certain things that I do as a woman and he loves that about me. And so there's an understanding that there's some basic differences between the sexes. And when you're, you know, all this toxic masculinity nonsense, I was like, you know, we need real men. We need real men to be law enforcement officers. We need them to be in the military, and we need them to just be good husbands that protect their families and don't see themselves as, you know, effeminate creatures. And so, you know, it's another one of those bizarre things that our education system is causing total chaos in our society. And I know we're both in the world of education because we recognize that education got us into this mess, and education is going to have to get us out of this mess.